Hello and welcome. I'm Anand Naidu filling in for Riz Khan. Our guest today is a real-life 21st century fairy tale. As a young child in the former Soviet Republic of Georgia, she carried buckets of water up 5 flights of stairs. Today, as one of Britain's top-selling female artists, she carries gold and platinum album sales along with a slew of awards. Katie Melua's path to fame may have been a road less travelled, but it is one that was inspired by such classic artists as Queen, Eva Cassidy and Bob Dylan. Her unique sound has made her a sensation across Europe. The latest release of her best-selling Pictures album is called If the Lights Go Out. Let's take a look.
And if the lights go out on all of us in just a year or two, and if the sky falls down like pouring rain, then I'll be here with you.
In addition to writing and performing her own music, Katie Melua also devotes her time to helping children in conflict and disaster zones. Katie Melua joins me now from London. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Lovely to talk to you.
Okay, we just heard that track there. It was called If the Lights Go Out. What's that about?
If the Lights Go Out is a love song, just like a lot of my songs, but it's placed in quite a strange sort of situation where, you know, the speaker talks about, you know, maybe something bad happening, like the world ending, and promising the person that you love that you'll be with them till the very last moment.
Well, we started out there describing your story as a fairy tale. How did it all start out?
Well, I, was born in Georgia in Eastern Europe, and my whole family is from there. But we moved to the west. We moved to Belfast first, in Northern Ireland, when I was about 8 years old, and spent about 5 years there, and then moved after that to London. And this was all because of my dad's job. Music was something that was always with me throughout all these moves. And then at the age of 15, when I started writing songs, I decided I wanted to do music as a career. And I went to music college, and I suppose I got lucky. I met my producer and we made an album. I know I'm making it sound quite easy, but obviously it was a lot of hard work. But I've just, I feel so lucky to be able to express myself through music.
I'm sure it was a lot of hard work. Now, what inspired you right at the beginning to start writing music? You say you were 15 at the time.
I think it was music itself, just the ability, incredible ability music has to make people feel something, very strong. I remember some of my happiest memories was listening to music at a really young age, artists like Queen or Led Zeppelin, and then on another extreme, classical music, and being so impressed by how sort of effective it was in making me feel something. And I suppose I wanted to be able to create that, to be able to, I suppose, put my own emotions into songs and let them affect others, people who listen to them.
So bands like Queen and Led Zeppelin, and we also mentioned earlier Eva Cassidy, Bob Dylan, were they big influences on what you were writing?
Yeah, pretty huge. I mean, I didn't get into Eva Cassidy and Dylan, and then there's also artists like Leonard Cohen and Paul Simon till much later. But when I did, that's when my whole world sort of turned around, because previous to that I'd been writing on computer. And then when I discovered that sort of singer-songwriter genre, I started writing on the guitar and really started focusing on songs where you focused on the lyrics and the melodies rather than the production and the rhythm.
I'm sure writing the music is one thing. Then, of course, you had a big break, as they call it in the business. What was your big break?
I suppose my big break was meeting Mike Batt, my producer and manager, and he had a project in mind, and he was looking for a singer for it. He wanted to make a very retro sounding album that was influenced by a lot of older 1930s and 1940s jazz, and at that time there was really no other artists that were doing anything retro, and I was quite inspired by this. And so we actually made my first album while I was still at college. We kind of made it weekends and after school, and yeah, that's when, after we finished the album, it then got picked up and started being played on radio and had a really incredible reaction from the public.
Was it a very quick success?
Probably, I think from the outside it would appear that it was a very quick success. But I was, making the album for about a year before we released it. And then once it came out, it was quite a slow rise up the charts. I remember there was, when we first released it, it was something like number 40, and then it went down to like 86. And then over the next few months, it kind of, went higher and higher in the charts. And every week I remember thinking, oh, this is the highest it's going to get, so I better enjoy it. This is the highest it's going to get, I better enjoy it. And then finally, when it reached number 1, it was just the most incredible feeling in the world.
I was reading somewhere that your songs are described as being emotionally darker. There is one song, and there's legends attached to your songs as well. There's one particular song called 9 Million Bicycles, and there's a bit of a legend attached to that. What is that?
I don't know if it's a legend, but what happened was the song got written because of the title. We were in Beijing in China. I was there with Mike, and our translator told us that there were 9 million bicycles in Beijing, and he was really inspired by that particular sentence and thought this would make a great song. So fast forward a few months later, and he had the song written. But I think the thing you're referring to was a few months later when we released the song, there was a scientist who got a bit upset about the fact that I had a lyric which said, "We are 12 billion light years from the edge of the universe," and that's a guess. And he had issue with the fact that I said it was a guess. He suggested that, science isn't a guess, it's something that is, estimated and worked out, and that's basically his job. And it kind of blew up into this whole thing, which was pretty crazy, because, at the end of the day, it's just a song.
But you subsequently incorporated what he said into the song.
I did, yeah, because I had to show him that his suggestion of lyrics wasn't going to work, because obviously they didn't rhyme and they didn't exactly fit into the melody.
Looking at your past as a very young girl in Georgia, it appears that it was pretty tough. I mean, we had that bit right at the beginning where we were talking about you having to haul buckets of water up 5 flights of stairs. That must be is that a fond memory right now, or is it a bitter memory?
It's actually, strangely enough, a fond memory. I mean, something like that seems a lot more bleak when you compare it to the lifestyle most people have in the West, where they don't know what it's like to not have electricity and hot water. In Georgia, that was just our life, and we were surrounded by it, and you just had to, live with it. You didn't really have a choice. I actually feel lucky to have had that background, and I don't know, I feel like it makes me appreciate where I am today even more.
Did you always want to be a singer? Did you ever think of any other career path?
Yeah, I had some pretty mad ideas about being a politician or a historian, but then I grew up and realized music was a much better path.
And at the moment, what are you doing right now? I mean, I know there's a big world tour on for 2008. Has that started already?
It's starting at the end of this month. I've just come out of rehearsals, and we're going to be going into tour pretty much most of Europe. But I really hope to be, going to places where I haven't been to before.
Well, actually,
so I know that we're doing some dates in. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say we received an email.
Oh, sorry. Were you going to say something?
Yes, I was. We received an email about your tour, and the email is from Marie from Texas here in the United States, and she asks, when are you coming to the United States? You have a lot of fans here who would love to see you in person.
Oh, I know. I'd love to come to America really soon. We just haven't got anything planned yet, but I'd say just keep an eye out on my website, and hopefully there'll be a trip planned to the US soon.
What kind of music do you like? What do you listen to when you're not working?
I like to listen to lots of different type of stuff. At the moment, I've really gotten into the Alan Lomax recordings, which were sort of historical recordings that Alan Lomax took, I think, in the early part of the 20th century. He went and recorded a lot of blues singers, music that was going to be extinct. So that sort of stuff I love listening to occasionally. And then there's, rockier things like Led Zeppelin and Queen that I love listening to. And I still listen to, my old favourites like Dylan and Joni Mitchell and Leonard Cohen.
We've just got another email in. This one's from Rick from Maryland here in the US, and he says, at such a young age, you have many awards and accolades bestowed upon you. Which ones are you most proud of and why?
I'd say just being able to make music. I'm really proud of the fact that I'm on my 3rd album and I'm still, able to do it, because, the industry is very difficult to get into, but it's even harder to stay, to stay in it. So I'm just, really happy to keep making it and to see people's reaction when they listen to my music. That's what I'm most proud of.
You've been described as an adrenaline junkie. What do you do that makes you an adrenaline junkie?
I suppose things like skydiving, and I'm absolutely obsessed with roller coasters. So if I'm on tour and there's a theme park nearby, I'm like always there.
What about, I believe that your band, it was you and your band, at one stage you held the Guinness Book of Records for playing, what was it, the deepest concert ever? You played underwater, 300 meters underwater? That must have been an experience.
That's right. Yeah, it was. It was in the North Sea, and it was at the bottom of a gas rig. And the actual concert was very surreal, because the acoustics in there were pretty sort of out of this world. But the training beforehand was even more crazy. I'm now trained to be able to escape a helicopter that crashes into the sea.
Well, that's pretty good skill to have, actually, if you travel around by helicopters.
Yeah.
Want to play?
I hope I don't need to use it.
Well, I hope so too. Let's play a cut from one of your albums, and this one's If You Were a Sailboat. Let's take a listen to it. You want to talk about that?
If You Were a Sailboat?
Yes.
Well, that was the first single from my album Pictures, and it has very surreal lyrics, which was what attracted me to the song. Again, it's another love song, but you sort of, I don't know, there was things in it. There's a subject that it deals with that most love songs don't, which is the idea of being really attached to someone and not wanting to share them with the rest of the world.
I want to talk a little bit about your personal life. There was a relationship that's been written about, a relationship with someone that you actually went to college with, but that didn't work out, and after 3 years you went your own ways. Was that it? You involved with anyone now?
To be honest, I try not to sort of, talk about what I suppose goes on at home. It's quite a funny thing, because I think it's a good idea to sort of separate, I suppose fame, and keep fame at work and not bring it home with me. So I don't know, that's why I find I don't really get recognised too much, on the street. I'm able to do that, and I think the way I've achieved that is by not talking about it. But I'm very happy at the moment, but I do try to keep the two separate.
Okay, fair enough. Let's get another email in. This one's from Nancy in Illinois here in the United States, and she writes, your family went from the Civil War in Georgia to the Falls Road in Belfast and then East London. That's definitely not the softer side of life. What kind of perspective have those experiences given you?
They've given me, I suppose, very sort of, different perspectives. In one way, I really appreciate where I am today. I think if I hadn't had the background that I had, I wouldn't appreciate it as much. I mean, even as basic things as being able to live in the UK, where there's better equality between men and women than say there was in Georgia. But also, I realised that sometimes, if you live in somewhere like Georgia and you look at the West, and your perception of the West is, funnily enough, from Hollywood films, which is what it was from my point of view. You kind of expect everything to be perfect in the West, and when you actually come here, you realize that of course it isn't. People still find things to complain about and to worry about, and it's just a pretty interesting way of, you know, discovering human nature, which is, you know, we're not fully happy. There's always something better that we think is out there.
We just have a few seconds left. I was wondering if you could tell us, when you're not working, what do you do?
I hang out with friends. I like going to the cinema, riding roller coasters. You know, if I get a chance, go skydiving, and reading books.
And you also work. You continue with that, don't you?
Yeah, I think it's important to, you know, be able to talk about things that are, you know, more important than, you know, just yourself in interviews occasionally. And I get to work with Save the Children, who are an incredible charity, and they took me to Sri Lanka about 2 years ago, and I was able to meet girls and kids as young as 8 who've been taken away from their families to basically, instead of learning how to read and write, to use guns and to be in the army. And it was pretty bittersweet because I got to meet them when they'd just been brought back into their families and back into their communities, but they'd experienced some, you know, horrific things which frankly make my background look like a piece of cake.
But you also appear to sort of not just talk the talk, but you walk the walk. I also read that you buy your clothing from Oxfam, for that matter. Is that just a legend, or is that what happens?
No, it's true. I love secondhand shopping. I think you can sometimes find better things, you know, in vintage clothes than you do on like high streets. So yeah, absolutely. I like to mix and match. That's always fun.
That was British singer and songwriter Katie Melua. Thanks for being with us. On the next show, the debate over the US government's ability to intercept Americans' telephone calls, emails and other communications. The Bush administration argues that it needs these powers to be expanded, but many Democrats are against any further invasions of privacy. Don't forget, if you have any thoughts about pressing issues around the world, send your emails to riz@aljazeera.net. See you next time. Street Talk is next.